Hello there, welcome back to Charles Circle, and welcome back to Anno 117. Last time, we destroyed the pirate base of Syrah. It cost us quite a few ships along the way, but in the end, it was worth it. There are a few straggler pirate ships still sneaking around the map, but ultimately they are not a meaningful presence that we have to think about anymore, which is great. So, what to do next then? Well, we've explored, I would say, the diplomatic and military aspects of the game for a bit here. The last few episodes in particular have been dominated by that. That's, of course, had its value. Not only did we learn along the way, we've grabbed this island here, Ixoriosum. I still haven't said that one out loud before. Don't think I got it right, but that's fine. It's our island now. We took this off Tarragon as probably our most significant conquest, I suppose. It's probably fair to say. And it was great. We learned a lot. It was fun. And we could continue warmongering, I suppose. We, of course, still have additional governors that we could, fight. Tarragon isn't even fully eliminated. He's still out here on the map, technically. But if I'm being honest, it's kind of lost its novelty for me at this point. I'm not saying I don't want to do any more of it, but I think we kind of get the gist for now, at least, right? Like, what we could do is go conquer more governors until our relationship, our reputation with the Emperor causes him to attack us, essentially, right? I mean, that's the absolute furthest extreme we could do. I am curious what that looks like. I'm sure it's some sort of overwhelming waves of enemy ships and such, but it does feel like a potential game ender, and I'm not quite there yet personally. So then maybe what we should do is get back to that core gameplay loop of developing our islands by fulfilling population needs, which we sort of abandoned the last few episodes in order to explore conquest, right? There are still quite a few things that our patricians want. We haven't come really anywhere close to completing all of their various needs, right? And one of the things that they want is an end-game monument called the Amphitheatre, which is a multi-stage build that we can place anywhere on the island, I think. So let's set this as the goal. I don't know that we're going to complete it this episode, we'll find out, but that's the point on the horizon we're going to set our compasses towards for now. So let's place the foundation, and then while it's constructing, we'll see if we can't supply a few more of these patrician needs. I was looking around where to place this, right? And it says, it affects the entire island, so we don't need to worry about range so much. So I think the most important thing we can think about is where the view is prettiest. So I like this waterfall along the cliffs up here, so I think maybe we'll put it here. I don't really know. I mean, it looks Coliseum-y, so I'm assuming it's something like that. I don't know exactly what it'll look like when it's done, and I don't know if we'll be able to move it because it's a monument, not a normal building. So this feels like as good a spot as any, but we'll find out, I suppose, right?
Of the Pan-Hellenic Games to all my friends out here.
And of course, he's quite happy that we're building the amphitheater. He does seem like a fan of that type of game. I think this is kind of cool too. Old-timey construction site. Hole in the ground for now. All right, but it's a monument, so what does that mean? It means that there is a multi-phase construction. This is something that I recognize from 1800 as well. And so for this phase to complete, and I don't know how long, let's find out, but we commit to doing this, and then it will occupy temporarily a chunk of our workforce, and of course require a bunch of resources to be brought out to the construction site. So we'll probably want to set up a warehouse to deliver these goods. That's probably more workforce than we have, so I think we're going to have to figure that out. Toggle to assign more workforce from other buildings using the same workforce type. So this is basically what? Do we want to prioritize this at the expense of everything else on our island or not, more or less? Interesting. We'll play around with that. But we have these resources. Start construction, resume construction. Interesting. I don't know. I suppose we should unpause, let's go ahead and, I mean, that's a warehouse, but I don't think a particularly conveniently located one. Let's build a temporary warehouse here for construction. And we just need to have it attached to our island. And we should be able to make some progress. Looks like it's 30 minutes, but we would have to, maybe it's 30 minutes from the time that we supply these. I don't know. But we do have a bunch of workforce that we're going to need to come up with, basically. Could, I suppose, temporarily demote some plebes, or we could just add a bit more housing. We are out of space on that front, though, I will acknowledge. So I'm trying to think, maybe what we'll do is set up a temporary construction associated neighborhood out here. Why not, right? Let's just grab, I don't know, how many workers do we think that'll be? Just set up some slums out this way, right? We don't have to do too much. I mean, they'll of course still consume everything that our other Libertus consume, but we can set up something out this way. And, you know, maybe we'll end up keeping the population. I don't commit to destroying this, of course, but what else do we need to show out here to improve their population? Great, so if we just throw down real quick, right, as we know, a market and a tavern, we will get more out of these on a per building basis. That should help out here. And I suppose we probably, no matter what, are going to need to, I would say, maybe even double that up. So let's just do it, right? If we're going to do it, we might as well do it right. Is everyone still in range there? More or less. Can't quite get around the corner there. I think that's all right. So I'm going to let that tick up for a moment. And while we're out this way, one of the cool things that we never really took full advantage of, but one of the cool things about our global devotion to series, where is it? Is the global one? Yeah, it is. So we can increase our productivity of our various farms up to 50%, which is awesome. But in order to do that, we have to actually place 50% more fields. And we just didn't do that, didn't take advantage of it. It's not cost us anything along the way, but we haven't taken any advantage of the benefits. So we might as well do that. Particularly, I think I've noticed that hemp is a little bit low right now. So let's definitely do that. I think one of the things we need actually for the construction of the amphitheater is ropes, which I do believe comes via hemp. So, yep, there we go. So that makes sense. Our workforce is just about where we need it to be. So that worked well. Very good. I think we should probably, there's just no reason not to at this point, also take advantage for example, the porridge. And in fact, what we could think about doing is if we are, and in fact we are, super oversupplying this now, we could just remove some of these productions, right? If we don't need that much oats, why are we employing someone to overproduce them? So looking out and around here, trying to think. So lavender, we have been placing near our population because it has an area of effect, which is neat. And we get the most out of that by having it adjacent to our neighborhoods. And I really like aesthetically the idea of sort of our lower tier residential outer rim stuff sort of blending into agricultural. And I think that's neat. But I will also say that we are kind of at a pinch for space in some of these areas. So what I might do is delete one of these and then come out here and say, hey, let's make up for it, right? By extending this lavender field. And in fact, maybe even moving it away from the Coliseum here a little bit. So let's jump in and do that. We have some space out here that we haven't really made use of yet because these pig farms are not going to end up taking up more space in this direction. So we might as well
construction has stopped.
Do some of that. Why has it stopped? Is it that we don't have the materials, we don't have the workforce? I think the materials still need to be delivered. That's my guess. Are we out, for example, of any of these? It's really gonna remember this. Okay, so concrete, which if I had to guess is gonna be our limiting factor, but so concrete, rope, and timber. And if I go to our warehouse, pick a warehouse, any warehouse, I guess. We said we have ropes, okay, we have concrete, and we have timber, so yeah, it must just be too many transporters. So this is a lowest level warehouse. So what we could do, I suppose, would be to set up another warehouse. Or ideally, in the longer run, we'd like to just straight up upgrade these, but we don't have that research yet, right? Let's grab it. It's 41 seconds, because it's a very early tier research that we just haven't bothered to get yet. Similarly, I think we might grab the early charcoal burner one too. I do have on my list for today, we should probably add a bit of charcoal. I noticed that it's getting a little low here, so it'd be nice if we could place that with a bit more freedom instead of having to be where the trees are. There are only so many trees on this island, and we are getting a little full on that. All right, but back to it before I completely forget. How are we on lavender? Okay, so that's not enough then. We've deleted an entire farm. So let's place another one. Maybe, I don't know. Shall we say here? And then come on in and take advantage of some of the awkward space here. Oh, you know what? Actually, let's change this really important stuff on diagonal construction because we want it to blend visually here with our existing fields, right? These are the building pro tips that I have learned so far in Anno 117. Really high value stuff. Okay. Now, is that enough, or do we need to add even more? I think if we add a third one, we could get rid of the other one out there too, so probably ought to do that. Maybe what we'll do is place it over here and have the farm fields fill in like this. Now we do need diagonal construction, or what? Is it no, I don't know. I cannot tell you. I do not know what the orientation is here, but that looks awful. So I think the most important part is just if we turn it off and turn it back on again. If you delete and rebuild, maybe you'll get what you want. So I guess on this side, we could, it looks better if it's all lined up, in my humble opinion. Oh, cool, we can actually have the aqueduct run through the fields. That's neat, I like that. We might actually try to take advantage of that and come out this direction a bit more. Oh my gosh. Diagonal construction. Here we go. Odd set of toggles. All right, so how about now? How is our lavender production? Good, not good enough to delete this one out here, which I think I'm okay with, right? One is not such a big deal, and we can push the fields out in this area, and in fact, why don't we? It's not like we can take full advantage of all of this space out here. So we might as well. But that does free up something here, and maybe more importantly, just frees up some road space to add some more stuff. That's more houses, for example, etc. Okay. There are other farms that we still have not yet done this for. And by the way, these animal farms, no change here, right? So this doesn't go to, what, I guess 4.5, which would be an awkward number, but it's just where we have these fields specifically. And let's double check now. We're good. Certainly on oats. I think what we could do is get our wheat going This looks like an overhang as a reminder because our flour production, well, at least used to be in excess. I think we might actually genuinely need now to relocate this and take full advantage. So the nice thing is that 50% bonus should be exactly what we need. I think, I don't want to overpromise here, but I think that should give us the amount of field space that we need in order to hit that exact 3 per minute or whatever it was to match our mill's input requirements. So just keep running these fields out this way, I suppose. And let's take a look now back at our agricultural goods, and oh, it's so close. It's just short. I think just to be safe, we should probably add another one, right? Don't you think? I'd rather have a little bit too much. I might even rather have a lot bit too much than a little bit too little. This is really going to box our housing in, but I think that's okay too. I don't know. I guess we want to leave 1 row potentially of housing is 3 here, right? In case we need to add more, we can fit along the sides. Why not? Okay. So that should definitely be enough wheat now. But if we go back and look at our consumer goods, okay, so we are overproducing bread. That's why we didn't have an issue before, but now we'll be set up to provide even more bread when we get to that point of needing it. So we have plenty of flax now as a result. Grapes and olives not on this island. Sheep, it looks like we are underproducing at this point. Now, who needs sheep? I'm trying to recall what we must have overproduced, or, without looking at our input requirements. I suppose it doesn't matter too much, but maybe it's the hats? Must be. So do we need to double our production? Is that right? Not quite. Increased by 50%, although of course a little bit extra couldn't hurt, and 50% of 3 is going to be 1.5 rounded up to 2 anyway. So let's just do that. Why not, right? And we've got our upgrade. So when we upgrade the warehouse, now, in addition to working faster, I think twice as fast. We have 4 ramps now. We had 2 before, is that right? Indeed. More importantly even, it looks cooler. We're into the tiled roof type of warehouse instead of the thatched roof basic one. So anywhere we're seeing those, you get the little hourglass that means they're waiting. We should be upgrading there. And again, a little bit low on workforce. One of the things I suppose we could do now that we have some extra would be to maybe serve this village after all a tiny bit. What else do they need from an area of effect perspective? Not much, actually. These, of course, they would like, but we have enough on the island. So this would be about taking advantage of the space here, which is not what I care to prioritize. So maybe what we will do is take advantage of this little row here that we've set up. I'll leave that for, I don't know, probably a well or something. It'd be more efficient to start here, but then the houses wouldn't be lined up in a perfect grid, and that would bother me. So let's do a little bit of that. And let me think, maybe there's a public service we could do to boost the population. That's really what I care about, it's just the population here. And if I were a public service building, I would be in here somewhere, right? But these just do, happiness, health, fire safety. There's nothing here that actually boosts population, so we're not going to place them because they take workforce population. So it's a net negative for us. We are still at max on shrines as well. Okay, cool. Well, we're above par, and that's what matters. And I think this is still continuing. Very good. What else can we do? I said we should probably add some charcoal. And now we can place it anywhere. We aren't constrained by the trees. And in fact, that means we could kind of, you know, productionize it instead of having to spread things out like we have to do with, for example, the apiaries. We can get a bit more dense here, which has its own benefits, I think. Of course, they do still have to have the, that's right. They have to have the area themselves. It just doesn't matter if there's trees. Okay, so never mind. We can't quite, you know, jam them all in tile by tile, but we don't have to worry about, like, we can space them out here without
Construction has stopped.
without having to worry about whether or not there are trees. So I suppose we could do something like this and this, which does have overlap, of course, but because the fertility is basically imagining that there are not infinite trees, but fully dense trees in this inner circle, even though there aren't, a little bit of overlap is okay. So let's do that. I think they can still reach this warehouse. It's probably an acceptable range as far as I'm concerned. And if we go up now to our raw materials, great, we are now in fact overproducing it, which is good because I imagine we're going to end up consuming more of this as we set up more of those advanced productions. But generally speaking, I guess we're even on ore. Could consider adding another one of those. Do we have any open mountain slots? Yeah, that's one. Of course, that's occupied. These are occupied. That's unoccupied, as is that. All right, so we still have 3 to work with. And I guess that'd be a long road, even though there's an aqueduct here already. We'd have to connect via road. The shortest new road to build. Not that we really have to solve for that too much, but we might as well solve for something, I guess. Maybe we'll put a warehouse here, an iron mine here, the road connecting it all up here, like so. Diagonal construction. Actually, kind of want it to come to this one. Again, super critical, but that looks like a smoother, more natural curve. So there it is. Great. So this should increase our basic production of iron as well. Double it, of course. Very good. And then double checking here again. I think we're even on pigs, but that is okay. And everything else, except for mackerel, is in excess. So mackerel, we use this for garum, and we have that like 50% fertility, which is why everything is operating at 50% productivity, right? Which probably means we undershot our production by 50%. So I guess we'll need to double that in order to continue providing garum to our people. This coastline's a little jammed up at this point. This coastline we freed up. I have I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with this front area. It's been different things at different points. And the various thought processes I've had was, wouldn't it be nice to have our military all in this space because, well, our boats are being produced here and that's where we're going to jump out and send our troops various other places. It ended up occupying a lot more space than that, right? And so we've already moved all but 2, I think, of our camps out here. And it's also been sort of like a military production space, sort of, as well, right? So we have our sails here. Not that they have to be, but because thematically, at least, they're next to the shipyard. They could be anywhere on the island next to a warehouse, and it would be exactly the same. And our military production buildings, like our siege workshop, etc., were all here because all our troops were here. But the thing that's kind of crept in, unfortunately, or, you know, doesn't have to be negative, I suppose, is this is really valuable real estate. It's right next to a ton of residences, and they've been the ones that we've had the longest, and so they are the ones that are the most upgraded on average. So it's actually really valuable space for area of effect public services, right? And so I've kind of been slowly but surely migrating stuff that isn't that out of here. Maybe we should just formalize that, you know what I mean? Like, we are going to need to use more of this space still for additional public services as we continue leveling everything up. So I think we just need to acknowledge that, lean into it, and let's just say ask our troops to complete that process by coming on out here, and let's move the barracks, siege workshop, etc. out this way as well. So let's G, which I've been using for grab in my head to remember that hotkey. I don't know if that's helpful to anyone else. Normally it would have been, I don't know, M, right? But why not? I can do G for grab. So let's put our barracks out there. Grab our equestrian, what do we call this? Stable? What is this called? It is called an equitum campus. Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful. I like stable better. But I suppose that's where you produce them, would be the stable. However you want to remember it. And then this siege workshop, we actually get additional knowledge, right? Area of effect knowledge, which is kind of convenient, I suppose. We don't have anything for, maybe we should put it on this side then, right? Be slightly closer at least to the town. Let's orient around that. Why not, right? I think this fits better. In fact, it does. Maybe like this. Yeah, I feel like that's where the entrance is, right? Similarly, I think that's our orientation for this building. This is the barracks, of course. Let's have everything actually facing the road. Why not? All right. So those are out of here, which makes this all a little bit more open, which is great. And the whole point of this was, oh yeah, that's right, to place a little bit more mackerel so that we can make more garum, I suppose. So there's that. And do we need a warehouse over here? We don't anymore. I don't even really recall why we ever did. So I suppose we can move that over here as well, marginally closer than the next best drop-off being the improved trading post. The other thing we could do to sort of finish finalizing the way that we're thinking about this is move these productions. I'm sure we'll do it. I'm not going to worry about it quite yet. That's a good enough remodel for now. And so with those dropped, do we finally hopefully have even a little bit of excess of mackerel? Brilliant. All right, so I think we're good on our basic productions here. Raw materials, agricultural, and extraction both. Our concrete consumption, of course, right, is very high, artificially speaking, because we're building the amphitheater. So this is even still a bit jammed up. I'm wondering if we build a second one, will it make a difference? Obviously, the throughput would be higher. The question is whether or not the workers would use a second one. Or do they just pick the closest one regardless? Genuinely sort of curious about that. Seems like they're using it, right? So maybe at least they're tied in how close they are. They're both literally touching the actual monument. So sure. We're rich enough at this point in cash and materials that we shouldn't let this be the bottleneck if we don't have to. So let's at least do that. There's no hint what is required next, is there? Because I would love to get out ahead of it, but I don't think that there is, unfortunately. Oh, we're wasting research, so let's grab something that could be helpful. Axe bearers. I think we're going to kind of take a breather on all the military research, since we're not really doing that too much anymore. This is interesting. So just like we had the mackerel 50% research, right? We can get iron. What I'm wondering is, does this add 50% fertility to islands that already have it? Like, could we improve our iron production on an island that we already have? I suppose the way to test that would be, does any of our island have mackerel fertility? There it does. And has that improved the production on this island of that good? Well, we don't make any. Of course, that can be resolved in 2 seconds. So let's just quickly, for the sake of science, find out. So when this thing gets all the way up to speed, will it say 100% or 150? Just genuinely curious. We'll come back in a moment, but we should research something in the meanwhile. Yeah, let's do this. So, okay, it'll take a second, but we can boost, oh, that's interesting. We can boost mines with the aqueduct as well, which could be pretty cool. There's an open mine slot next to where our aqueduct is on our main island that would be easy enough to make use of this with. And then, of course, this is more what I had my eye on, which is 50% more water coming out of the aqueduct, which is, if you recall, a specialist that we make use of out this way already, I thought. Do we not?
A building's construction
I swear we had.
has stopped.
We did. So what the heck happened? Did I must have unassigned this or something, because I very specifically recall setting this up. Well, I'm glad we looked.
Governor?
There we go. So this should, in fact does, increase our production by 50 water, and then another 50, I would assume, once we get that research. So fingers crossed. All right, one of the other things that we could do that we have not yet done, if you recall, when we built this temple, we did not have really the cash to build a temple and a library. It's sort of higher tier counterpart in the Eques, I think it was. Was that right? Or was it truly a Patrician building? Maybe it was. It's just been a few episodes now and I can't recall. But we picked either or. We said library or temple, and we went temple. There's an easy way to find out too. I can just see which one of these. Yeah, okay, so it is a Patrician building. So we went temple instead of library because 50k and 60k were just large chunks for us. They aren't anymore. We could get a library in here, and that would, again, I find this so very funny, but this would cost us some fire safety because books are flammable, I guess, but it would increase our knowledge. Not that that's a huge bottleneck, but it's always nice. And maybe more importantly, our prestige, right? So we can place this. It's a decently sized building. I actually think with a bit of remodeling in here, we could get it in this sort of monument zone to maximize the area of effect, although it's a pretty decently sized one, certainly. You can roughly see it's, if you place it out here, it comes all the way to here. So if we place it here, it should get most of our buildings, just like everything else in this area. But I have not optimized this for either efficiency or aesthetics, so I'm going to do that real quick in this area. We might end up having to move, for example, the sanctuaries out a little bit further. They are more generic, although they obviously also have great range. So this is probably a relatively short time lapse so that I don't have to narrate my various tweaks, but I will see you very shortly on the other side then. All right, so a little bit, maybe a lot bit of rearranging later. Here we are. The idea in the center here was to try to keep this like open courtyard vibe in the center, because we got a lot of big important buildings we're trying to jam in here, but also make it look half decent at least, right? So I tried to keep an open orientation here. So this part of this building, you know, it is what it is, but like functionally it doesn't change it, but it feels a little bit more open, which makes it feel a little bit more reasonable that you might walk up and enter this way. Same here with the library, same here with the temple, right? I think the biggest thing that was hardest thing to properly maximize was where we were going to put the villa. Now the villa has a bunch of really important area of effects for us, and we want them to touch as many of these highly leveled residences as we possibly can. That's why we had it right here before, but that of course very much blocks the pathway through that we were trying to create. So I put it over here. I feel like this is, if our development skews in one direction or the other, it's over here. It's certainly to the south. It's probably slightly east. And I had to move the Officium out here because they can't overlap, right? The radii cannot overlap. We only need this to be within touching distance of this aqueduct, really, at this point in time. There's, another slot we could put something in eventually, but it doesn't really matter right now. So that was the adjustment we made there. Our island is going to be very mad at us for a moment. Here we go. It's going to bounce back, and we should be just fine. But we'll take a second or three to re-equilibrate. Definitely a word, right? Fire safety should hopefully tick up, not down, but let's see. All right, we'll keep an eye on that. It was a big adjustment, not because it was many buildings, but because the buildings that it touched were incredibly important. So we will, we will keep an eye on it for sure. And it seems like we've unlocked some new, nodes here as a result of some of the work we did. Unclear. Unrest in Tarragon's old island we do not care about. All right, and the good news is we have a little bit more space here, which is good. I am realizing now that, so I put the vintner here. I moved a few buildings out, right? So the vintner, which was here, is now here, is dealing with a little bit of a range issue for warehouse access, but it seems like it's functional, which is all I really care about. We also moved out these sanctuaries. They have great range. Between one here and one here, we have most, not all, but most of the city covered. But that did require relocating some residences. And highly leveled ones, we sort of moved around to displace lowly leveled ones, and we put all of the excess ones out here. And this is why I'm wondering, I think we probably need, is there a market? We need a tavern still out this way. I mean, there's one here, but it seems like the range isn't good enough, and we don't have enough concrete to do perfect walls out here, perfect roads out here to extend that range. We should eventually, but we don't right now. What I might do is just double check during this period of, pretty intense construction and or consumption of concrete. We can see if we can't buy a little bit of extra as well. But in the meanwhile, I mean, look, we're talking about a marketplace and a tavern. It's really not that big a deal to slap down an extra out here, I suppose. It's really just for these handful of buildings. Yeah, not gonna do it. We'll come back and pave these roads properly at some point, I'm sure. But for now, I think we will simply squeeze in a couple extra houses here and there and call that good enough, hopefully. All right, well, while the rest of that is still settling in, the other thing I wanted to do was, I mentioned this offhand once or twice, but we had some backup, and in fact, you can still see it here, right? There's a little bit of same hourglass thing, folks waiting here to trade. And since, for example, we're trying to buy some concrete, quickly before I forget that that is a thing we're trying to fix over here, just gonna real quick level up those roads. In fact, why not just do all of that until we're out? Great. The issue with folks backing up is that we don't have as much throughput for eventually our own trade routes as well, right? So it's something we want to resolve with a, wherever it is, trading pier, right? So this is essentially a second location. It's another warehouse, so to speak, where you can trade with the island if you're a ship from some other place. So we could put it right here, right? I mean, that's fine. It doesn't really give us any, there's no difference in throughput if we put it here or anywhere else. But what it could do is cut off the distance that some boats might have to travel. So for example, we have this island out here, and we are shipping lots of stuff. It's a pretty high volume shipment route. And we have to go already from the far side of this island around, but this is our home island. You know, in theory, if there was a beach over here, it would be way more convenient to simply place it on this side, cutting off the extra time required to come all the way around. Now, that was an example where there isn't another option, right? But the other place we could put it would be out here. And I want to say, yeah, so we've got one in here even. And this actually would be closer to our other island. See that? It's that one out there. So this would be a cute little shipping outpost where we could then actually see boats come in. I like that. Both, I think, from an efficiency and aesthetics perspective. It's kind of cool. I think we should do that. So there's that. And then the other building that we can place now is the depot. And this is what I accidentally researched 2 episodes ago when I thought I was researching the trading pier. This is just more storage. Now, we don't need this anymore, right? Because our, where is it? In our religion, one of the things we get, I think it's global, right? Okay, because we maxed out in series devotion across all of our islands now get an extra 300 tons of storage, which is the same way of saying 3 times this depot building. And you'll notice that there is a limit of 1 on the island. You can increase this through various researches, but it's very much intended to be a sort of a bottleneck for you. You can't just store everything for forever. And the fact that we get 3 of these for free, right? 3 times, by the way, our current limit for our devotion is pretty cool. It's a nice way to sort of compare the relative power of that upgrade. That said, because we have it, we don't really need to place one of these, and it requires both maintenance and a workforce, more importantly, that we are hurting for right now. So I don't think we're going to bother, but I did want to at least touch on it. And also maybe glance at our fire safety, which I definitely think is officially has taken a hit based on our rearrangement. So I think we should do something about that. Nothing wrong with that, but we should probably fix it. So it looks like out here would be where we have most of our non-covered buildings from a fire safety perspective. I suppose we could try to fix that by placing one here-ish. Maybe more like there. Could even go in here if we rearrange that road for a second, which I think I might do. I think that's a little bit tidier. Probably should grab another well or 3. Yeah, that seems like a good idea. Maybe who else is missing a well? Looking for green dots instead of gray. There's a little bit out here, I suppose. Not a ton. This area is missing good coverage, which is interesting. There's one here. Maybe we just need to improve the road connection.
People are ailing.
Hopefully that helps a little bit. Sure. This all seems pretty good to me there. All right, good enough. The aqueduct coverage is the other moving piece, I suppose, that could be impacting things, but we have pretty good, I would say, aqueduct coverage overall. So I think we are okay. Certainly we could, by the way, improve our fire coverage up here by running an aqueduct, but I don't think that's quite worth it. All right, good. So we're going to call fire safety resolved. And what else would make sense now? Let's check in on our construction here. Cool, we're coming up on the last minute, then we can push to the next phase. So I'm gonna just crank up the time real quick, and we should be able to at least take a peek at what that will do for us. I will also acknowledge I've been totally ignoring what's going on over here. Seems like there was maybe a riot, maybe a fire, and also it seems like maybe it worked out just fine. Not going to bother with Tarragon's Island so much. The other thing we could do is take a peek at, I've been ignoring this, but there are some residence quests that we could take a look at. Have not yet so far. I've been ignoring these folks. So it seems, well, this is definitely dated because we've already taken the pirate out, but there's a quest I suppose we could pursue. Why not? There we go. Very good. More importantly, we have completed phase 2. I guess phase 1 was just place it. So we've done 1 and 2. And neat. Look at that. In progress. Very cool. You can see it taking shape. Yeah, it is very Amphitheatre, very Coliseum-y. You can see the underneath too. I guess this is where you store all the, I don't know, where everyone preps beforehand. Oh yeah, and then this is the crane to bring the, I don't know, tigers up or the gladiators or whatever. Cool. Neat to see in its, I guess, construction stages. Anyway, it is already actively consuming things, I'm sure. Nope, not yet. We have to press start. So it requires more concrete, no surprise. A bunch of tiles, we certainly have. A bunch of marble, we actually have. And more rope. And then the workforce here, fewer but higher leveled, is our plebes. So, started, and there we go. We have a plebe workforce issue, which we can resolve by upgrading. So let's see that, right? So if we were to, I guess maybe start out this way, maybe do these inner blocks a little bit, and maybe here. How about this row?
Has started in your city.
I think that should, as those houses like meet their needs, that should increase here, right? So these are still loading up. I think we're going to be okay. I think that should tick up over 0, which is good. So then this will take another 30 minutes once we have sufficient workforce. Now our warehouses are cruising and we're ready to go. So this is now in its next phase. I'll keep the speed going so that it completes relatively soon. And then what else can we do? Our island happiness isn't incredible. It's not a problem. We could look at, I suppose, some of these other needs that we could produce. So the theater, I see the range kind of cuts out here. So this is the issue with the way that we've structured this. It requires essentially going the long way around. You could reach further over here if we ran a road like this, but of course that would mess with our aesthetics. I'm not sure we can handle that. Well, the other thing would be to fill in there. Got a couple remaining gaps here from my 1 tile adjustments I made 1,000,000 of. You can see the evidence there. I wish concrete weren't so rare of a resource right now, because I would love to just extend these ranges. And there's even marble roads, right, which would be even further range. I think we saw that somewhere in the tech tree. There it is. There it is. We could queue it up, but look how we have to get there. It's going to take some time. Probably something to branch towards, though. And I suppose what else we could do, we could set up one additional, or at least, you know, start with the next one of these productions. So we could do necklaces, right? We don't yet provide necklaces. They require gold. That would require us to go settle one of these northern islands. All 3 of them have gold, so we can definitely do that. And then ship it over. The minerals we already do on, I want to say, Alba Luna, right? So we could either crank it up there or use any of these islands that have both, which actually, so it'd be this one and this one have both, would be kind of a convenient way to handle that all at once. The other thing we could probably do, yep, from everything we already have here would be these loungers. So we already make dyes from the snailery. We already have flax on this island, and I think in quite some excess. And we could create these cushion stuffers. The only other thing we would need to do is bring in sandarak, which, if I recall correctly, we already bring in up here. Do we make sandarak in excess? I bet we don't, but that we could. Is it a, it's a raw material? Yeah, so we only make the one right now, but that is very easy to scale up. Let's start with this. So how many do we need? Let's work backwards from that. Consumer goods, loungers, we currently require, well, we don't need any, so 1 seems like it would be sufficient. So let's start there. 1 actually would be 2 of these, though, because they take 2 minutes. Let's just start with 1 and see how it scales up. Some of these, like super advanced luxury ones, you just don't have in high volume so much, which is great. So, you're fine, right? Where even is it? Can't be that important. All right, so let's come back here.
Let's cut the
Oh, a request.
Get this done for me, eh?
Ooh, interesting. Oh, we can do this, right? I think. We produce these things. I have no idea how much excess we have, but we can definitely produce them. And we either commit to losing 5 or gamble 10. I think we're going to gamble 10. All right, actually, let's refocus on this then, because it is timed, and it does allow us to, I suppose, well, Emperor, we know Emperor reputation is a very important thing, because it will allow us to warmonger. So let's see, let's change which one of these we're tracking. Togas and brooches. What do we actually have as far as excess togas on this island? 100. So we will still need to make a bit more than we currently do. And then brooches we have here as well, but probably need to make some excess of 2. Okay. Let's think. Could we buy excess togas? Like, could we just go to one of these islands and buy the remaining 50 or whatever we need?
Slave markets, fish markets. How my
Not
tenants
here.
use the floor space is up to them.
And not here. Okay, so yeah, we need to actually produce these. That is not a problem. All right, so let's come on into our main island where we make the togas. Let's take a look at the toga production. Here it is, and see what all we need to do to add more, because I think we produced this in slight excess, but not by much. So we might as well just use this as an opportunity to upgrade that anyways. I think that's the move. So let's double our toga production to start. That will, of course, start with a second loom weaver. This has an area effect of income and 0 trade-offs. So we want to get this somewhere. It's nice and small as well. Try to get it somewhere in, I guess, our residential area, and try to think about how to maximize that without over-engineering it. But we could get it in. It actually doesn't matter which level, I suppose. So I think we might just do this for now. Seems good enough. If I were to move, say, this is plus health. We have pretty good health. We have pretty good income too. Yep, I just said we weren't going to over-engineer this, so let's not do that. So we need now to work our way down to weavers and dye works. Weavers here. Now we have one. It seems like we should be okay, because if this is every 2 minutes, this is every 1 minute, so we're definitely not going to be okay. Why would it say that we're going to be okay? There we go, it just took a second to load. All right, so then we need to add, frankly, we need to double our weavery, but I think looking at the ratio, we have 2 on the out, so that means adding 2, which will mean adding some more of this workforce, no problem. There is no area effect here, so wherever works, and in fact, yep, that's where the other 2 seem to be already, up in this who cares area of effect wise production space. So I guess here and here, more or less. Let's rearrange slightly so that it's a little bit less aesthetically miserable. In fact, can we even be good to come over for the road? Nope. Okay, no worries. Let's move this here. And build that road. Can this actually go back to how it was? It can. Even better. This absolutely needs upgraded at this point. And then we should be good to go on the Weaver setup, which will double our flax consumption, so let's check in on that. Flax we are good on. Great, this is one of the field sets that we increased via the aqueduct and the series devotion over the course of the game since we built them, so that finally consumes all of that excess, but that is not a problem. So we need to upgrade some plebes into equites in order to have all of those buildings functional. So we'll do that next. Shall we say this block? Feels like that's a half decent answer. It should tick up here shortly. And then the other side of this production is the dye works and snailery. Now we already said, right, that we were looking at the dye works, I think, yep, for the Patrician loungers, so we might as well take this opportunity to try to bang out a little bit more of that as well. So how much dye works do we currently make? How much do we need? So we need to double it already. Let's at least triple, maybe quadruple it. So we have 2 of these on the island, which means we need to add, oh my gosh. Well, all right, let's just add 6 more, just 6 more. These buildings that take 2 minutes, they kill you. So, yeah, I mean, I guess if we're gonna add 6 more, we're basically adding a city block, you know? Which absolutely means, well, 2 things. 1, I want another warehouse out this way, and 2, it means we've got a lot of upgrading to do, and that is going to mean not just upgrading plebes into equites, but frankly going to have to backfill some of the libertas that we'll need in order to upgrade all of those plebes into equites. So I guess let's say these 2 blocks can go up, and how about some of, let's say this block goes up, maybe this block too. It could even also be that block. Let's just let it tick up for a minute. Now, you know what? Those 2 will be necessary at least. How about Good so far. Now we need a whole bunch more snaileries, I'm sure. Let's see. So we have the dyes that we need, and again, we're overproducing here because we're going to need to make more, or we're going to need them to make the loungers too. So then in agricultural goods, is that what snails are? They are. We now need to quadruple that production. So we need to add 3x what we currently make on the island, which, again, to belabor the point, is we're going to go from 2 to 8, so we need to add 6 of these. So here we are again, right back in our harbor production that we've continuously cleared out over the course of the game, only to keep backfilling it. I suppose if we need 6 of these, honestly, okay, here's what we're going to do. Our trading post is not just a trading post, it is now also a snail outpost. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That will do a number on the workforce as well. But there we go. Definitely going to want a warehouse. Call it there, I guess. And again, I think we are okay on flax. So in this time, have we maybe started to work our way up on togas at all? About 100 still. But we are, I believe, now producing them in some level of excess. Great. So we'll accumulate an extra 1 a minute once everything is fully up to speed, which might be okay. But ultimately, just in case, I think we might say, what does it cost to purchase one of these? Yeah, so a couple thousand if we want to say, let's buy, oh, that's the other thing we should do is stop selling them now that they're over 100. Let's just say buy one under 150. And then the brooches is the other part, the other half of this. Hopefully we're not selling. We are. Let's say buy when below. What do we need? 170? So help me get up to 170 if you don't mind. Now let's take a look at the trade routes that we have already. So this boat currently going out to Albion will be back in a moment, hopefully. By a moment, I mean 10 minutes plus return trip, so at least 20. But I think if we go out to Albion, I think we're producing brooches in pretty significant excess. Well, maybe. We have a lot of silver. Do we have enough brooch makers? I guess that's the actual question here. And we have 4 of these on the island, which should consume, yeah, it should consume all of the silver we're producing. So we actually should have a decent amount of excess here. All right, so I'm hoping that this should cover us on that quest, but we need to keep an eye on it. As we've let that work, just checking in quickly on the amphitheater. Good, it's going. And then let's get back to the loungers, which again, we've already done some work on. We now just need to get the cushion stuffer component going. So let's do the same thing. Start here and work our way back and backfill it. So a chair maker, area of effect minus fire safety plus prestige. That is a good trade. I would like to make good use of that. So let's maximize it. I think we'll put it here. Yeah, which means I'm going to move this cute little decoration that I placed at some point and forgot. Get it out of the way. This can go here. He'll use this space. It's not perfect. I could drop it in here and get a little bit more, but we're doing just fine. So that's 1 every 2 minutes. This cushion stuffer, then, 1 of these will be sufficient to fill the chair maker. So we'll place 1 of these, and it has no area effect. So this can go wherever, again. About there, seems fine. Now I think we might actually be a little low on flax production. Is that right? It is. So we need to add another flax farm. Where is our first flax farm? Oh, it's these two. Oh, interesting. So these actually probably do have space. Yeah. And they are, fortunately, they're getting water from the aqueduct, right? Because they happen to be in the city's aqueduct range. But sort of an awkward spot for them. I think I do want to kind of move them over here to where the rest of our farming has been, and then we can improve their productivity as well, right? So let's go. Oh my gosh. Go like this. For whatever reason, I'm finding when you move farms, it is simpler to just delete the fields and redraw them entirely, which, sure. So we'll place the same two that were out here. What is this, by the way? Oh, nice, mosaics. And then let's actually draw in the fields that we need. And we'll do this, again, these same two should be giving us 50% more now because of the series boost. Now that we're certain that this will fit, I guess we'll come out to here. Should we leave the same 3 tiles? I think we should, in case we need to slap down some more easy housing. Here, let's finish this line, and I don't know, maybe we'll come out here and go along the Coliseum. I actually don't like that. I think we're going to try to decorate that space specifically a little bit more, I don't know, intentionally. Might end up redoing these fields as part of that, but let's just keep this, I don't know, order roughly the same. So hopefully that's enough flax now, and it's exactly even. Oh, and starting to tick up as they spin up, which is good. That makes sense. So the only other thing we need to do now is make sure that we have enough Sandarak, which again we produce over on Alva Luna. So if we go into our productions and then add, right, instead of switching back and forth, hold Control, we've multi-selected. So then let's go take a look at whether or not we're producing enough Sandarak. The answer is going to be no. The question is by how much. So if we double it, maybe triple it, we should be okay. Interesting that the productivity is at 50%. Might be a reason for that. And that reason is we've got ruins out here. That makes sense. We're at 50% because one of our 2 buildings was on fire, I guess. So makes sense. And if we said we need to double that production, then right, let's double check one more time.
Fire has started in your city.
Yeah, doubling it. In fact, adding one of these should be sufficient, but let's be safe. We are talking about something we ship, right? Which means that there's going to be, things will be delivered in big chunks. I like to have more in the way of buffer in those situations because, you know, being perfectly balanced isn't helpful if you end up getting it in sort of big chunks anyway. So let's see. Maybe we'll move this field out of the way, grab. Yeah, that isn't going to work overall, is it? That's fine. Let's say here, and then draw his fields like so. Again, I'm simply just going to delete these fields now and redraw them. Anytime you need to like rotate or whatever, it just ends up being a bit of a mess. So.
A building's
There's your
construction has stopped.
Alrighty. We've stopped because we are, what, short, it seems, on ropes, perhaps. Yeah, we're going through a lot of those. We certainly make them somewhere or other. Shall we double check? These construction materials, and we make some, at least. They're made of hemp. Do we have excess hemp lying around? A little bit, not much. We could add a rope maker, I suppose. This one clearly needs upgraded. We have our rope makers. Are they up this way? I can't recall. Let's just go back here. Would they be? Here it is. We have 3 on the island, and they're all right here. Let's add a 4th, just to speed that up. And in fact, I suppose we could just call this its own block here. Give it a separate warehouse, maybe even. Here. Sure, why not?
Better you decide than I.
Praise for the Imperium. Poets and orators proclaim the glory of governors far less accomplished than you. You could commission lauditors to exalt your Imperium in Rome, lest you be overshadowed by less worthy rivals. Do we agree? Well, certainly. We can throw money at this, right? So he likes it. He likes it a lot if we send them to Rome. There seems to be no trade-off for that except for cash, which we have in excess. So 10 reputation. Very good. Yeah, the only way to handle or to increase reputation is really just these events over time when they pop up. So I think that's why it's important that we're responsive to these. There's just no other way to get it, unfortunately. All right, so I think we've provided loungers. Are they starting to get them? Important question, right? Ooh, soap is falling. That's not great. Not yet, though. So what's going on here? Take a peek. Obviously, we have the final building. Our intermediate goods here. Yep. Is it... Perhaps we are low on Sandarak. I don't know. That could be it. Could easily be it.
Signs of public unrest.
Unrest. Okay. We don't have City Watch up here. So I suppose we should add it, right? City Watch. Custodia. There you go. Get out there. All right, so the ropes part would also be very silly to be suffering for unnecessarily. So we are going to buy ropes when under 150, just to be safe, right? We have the cash. Why would we mess around? Very good. Hopefully now this is continuing. This, of course, is not ideal. Yikes! Yeah, a lot of ignored unrest and fires in our recent past here, isn't there? All right, and then how are we on excess? Excess togas and such. Togas are trickling up, 113. Brooches, 130. Good. So we are on track. Not there yet, but on track. Let's troubleshoot the loungers, which I'm assuming are still... Nope, there they are. They're starting to come in. Good. Very good. Okay, so that's great. So we should start to see additional population on Patricians, which is good because we actually need that to happen to unlock a lot of the benefit, at least from the Amphitheatre. And also these lyres and chariots. So let's watch that tick up a bit and maybe check on the soap production, see what's going on there. I would imagine it's lavender related because I definitely messed around with that earlier this episode, right? So are we okay on lavender? Yeah, we might need to add another lavender. Okay. That's quite doable. I think I had blinders on about improving things out this way, and I think I might have deleted one too many of these, so There's not enough space to do it there anymore, even if we did want to go back on that, and I don't think that we do. What we could simply do instead is place it out here, right? Why not? Keep these beautiful purple fields going out in this direction. It's kind of cool. I like this hillside being our farm area. It's kind of fun to just paint this area different colors. What we need now is we're still very much short on the ropes. This is where I miss surging production. You could crank up productivity in 1800 at the expense of happiness, but that is not a thing we can do here, unfortunately. Maybe what we'll do is just go ahead and add one more rope maker, requiring, of course, one more hemp farm, just to try to speed this up a tiny bit, right? All right, I think that should do it. Let's see. It'll take time to catch up anyways. I think the other thing we'll need to do is... Actually got a couple excess pleas we could knock back down to Libertas, but maybe it's better to just keep adding, call it out here. Oh, a festival, that would be good.
Your instruction.
Additional knowledge, yeah, sure. Throw cash at it. Tabulist, what's a tabulist do? Tutoring tabulist. Knowledge area effect for all tabulists in range. Ah, this was the captain of our flagship. I thought it went down when we lost the flagship. That's cool. Glad it's back. Alright, well, at any rate, I think we should throw... I don't know, that doesn't seem as helpful. I want one of these like broad-based area effect things. So let's just do that. I think this is the one that got bumped out of here. When our prestige dropped, right, when we rearranged things in here, it bounced back, of course, but it took a second to adjust. I think it ejected one of these. We get each of these slots unlocks at a certain prestige amount, so I think it unlocked, if that makes sense, but should be resolved now. All right. Well, this is just going to take a while on the ropes accumulation, but I think we're set up to succeed at least. And we have produced... Good surface, still fine. We have produced enough enough loungers, so that is one of these needs sorted as well. The soap is driving me nuts here. Let's see what we can do about that. Okay, so I think it just needs to catch up once the lavender does catch up. All right, so it's not done yet, but it will be soon, which is great. Olives being delivered via a boat, so that shouldn't be an issue either. Cool. All right, well, I am looking down at the recording time, and I think we're probably not going to complete this construction this episode, but we are, I would say, more than halfway there, which is pretty cool. So I think we'll call it here for the day. And we'll come back next time and try to wrap up this monument, which would be pretty cool. I think maybe along the way, while we're waiting for that to happen, there's still a couple other goods that we can provide for our patricians, but I think this was a pretty big step in the right direction there. We've done a little bit of rearranging, of course, but we've done this in order to provide additional needs. So we have a library now that is now being supplied. We have loungers being supplied. We are, I think, on a path to kind of top out what we're able to provide our citizens soon. At that point, we'll have all of the monument needs sorted. By the time that this is built, I think we'll have enough patricians to unlock it and actually benefit from it. And then I think we'll kind of have capped out the population part of this game as well, at least on our main island. There's still much more that we can do on Albion as well. I think there's a few things we could make over there and ship over here and vice versa, but we are approaching the ceiling of Patricians. So, but yeah, this is fun. I'm enjoying myself. It's nice to take a bit of a break, not have it's fun stress of combat, but the stress of combat. So this has been a nice, calming, break from that during this holiday week. Happy holidays, if that is something that applies to you when you're seeing this. I have enjoyed myself in this one for sure. I hope you did too. If you did, do come by for the next one to see us finish up the Coliseum, Amphitheatre, whatever you want to call it. Excited to see how it looks when it finishes. Excited to see what bonuses we get for it. But until then, have a great rest of your day, and goodbye.